Please welcome Dr. PolyaNinova.
Okay, so I'm PolyaNinova. I'm a physician from Bulgaria, and I'm currently doing my second year of pediatrics residency at Alberta Children's Hospital. First, I would like to thank you, this excellent organization, Calgary Multicultural Center, for organizing, hosting this conference and encouraging people at the round tables to enhance the process of integration of international professionals in the Canadian line. Second, I'd like to thank you all interested organizations, non-profit and government organizations for their willingness to help and sit and hear about the challenges that international professionals encounter in their life and until they realize it in the professional field. Let me first start with why I and my husband and my family decided to come to Canada and how we made that decision. We came to Canada in 2005. We are both professionals. We applied through the skilled worker immigrant class, and we were qualified based on the polling system. And I think most of you are familiar with the system. The main points that were given in that system are based on the professional qualifications and also with the, based on the clinical experience in general. Personally, for myself, was a clinical experience. So we were at the right age. We were sort of the right type of family, having 2 children. So we basically got the maximum points at the time. So we arrived to Canada and we tried to search on the internet and find information about the country, about the place where to settle down. So we chose Calgary as an excellent opportunity, and Alberta in particular for professionals to develop their professional life, to settle their family, and so on. So we came here to seek basic professional realization, and the economy that was excellent for me. I just want to mention that I was pregnant with my last child at the time, so I had her here and my 5 months of arrival in Canada. So we came with a clear idea that we want to realize in the professional field. It is not that we were not aware of the hurdles that we have to go through, but we were ready for that. So now I would like to outline some of the challenges that I met during my way of getting into residency program. So first challenge that I would identify is a lack of alternative jobs that medical professionals would do. So what I mean by that is, once you come to Canada, we find that your medical diploma is not credited, is not accepted, even to work as any type of a medically related staff. I'm talking about nursing attendant, I'm talking about lab assistant, I'm talking about personal aid jobs, that type of thing. So now, when I came to Canada, I was lucky now that at the time I applied for Calgary Home Support Service, and I got a job as a personal aid. Sorry, I had to go in the community and visit different disabled people and help them out with the personal care. At the time, I was not required to have any certificate. I think now it has been changed, and this is a requirement. So you have to go through a certificate process. It takes about 8 to 9 months to get a certificate and practice. What I've done in those first years of coming to Canada, I worked as a personal aid through the Calgary Home Support Service, and also a year later I applied for a nursing attendant job at Foothills Hospital, and I got a job because people were nice enough to say, okay, you've been a physician for 10 years, and you're probably well qualified to do this job. And it's again very similar to personal aid in the hospital. We work together with the nurses. We don't communicate with the physicians at all. So the second challenge that I would like to mention is a prolonged and complex licensure process. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this process. I don't think that we have a time to talk about that today, but it's extremely complicated. It's a very long process. You have to pass all Canadian medical exams, and you have to apply for residency to the Alberta International Medical Graduates Program, which is once a year. So the minimum time that you could make that is 3 years, and the maximum goes a long way. So I've seen people who've tried for 10 years and even longer, or they move from province to province, and each province has its own procedure. It's all different, and you have to settle for a while and then you apply. So for us, International Medical Graduates Program that I applied for and going for residency is just once a year. So if you don't get in your first year, you have to wait another year. And if you don't get in the second year, you have to wait another year. And I should clarify that I haven't been involved much in those activities over the last 2 years since I got into residency. But my information is being changed in a not really positive way. People now have a restricted to apply for 3 times, and then they're not given any opportunities. This is not confirmed information, but something that could be checked out. Also, I want to mention about the unrealistic expectations for international graduates, medical graduates, and what I mean by that is, so in order to get into residency, you have to provide 3 reference letters, and you have to provide those letters from practicing physicians in Canada, and you have to prove your medical experience in Canada. You cannot get a license. No way to get a license through the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta. At the time when I came in 2005, there was a little opportunity that some of us got a courtesy license or a restricted license, and they were able to practice as a clinical assistant in some medical offices. A few months later, the procedure has been changed, and this type of a license was restricted to very specific areas of rural areas, or it's a complicated procedure. Again, you have to find a supervisor, a physician who is willing to take you, and he signs plenty of documents that he will supervise you, and so on and so on. So only a few physicians are ready to do it on that, because people are scared, basically. This is one of the things. Also, what I've done, and I want to mention it, is a volunteering. So I volunteered at Children's Hospital since I arrived, and for several years I got excellent reference letter from there. But not many people are able to support their family and work and get money and then do that. So I didn't work for the first 2 years of my life in Canada. And as I mentioned, I was pregnant, I delivered my child, so I was lucky enough to get support from the government as a new mother, and that was one of the things. My husband also went through the Bow Valley, and he got the funding for learning English. So that's the way we were able to survive the first 2 years of our life, and be able to pass my exams. And we paid for basically from all our savings back from Bulgaria. So the next thing that I want to mention is a huge gap between the time you practice and until you get into practice again. So these are years of not practicing, you're losing your skills, you lose your knowledge, you're basically off of the market. You cannot do anything because it takes a while until you get your knowledge and your skills back again. And my personal experience is that once you get into residency, because now I can talk from that perspective as well, you get into residency and it takes a while until you get this knowledge back, and people perceive that as, perceive us as weak residents. They perceive us as poor physicians, as physicians who are not qualified to do their job in Canada. And I think this is one of the misunderstandings here. I think there are a lot of qualified physicians, but they basically are put unequally in the market.